Thanks for tuning in to Spill It. We love having you here. Our mission is to give you a glimpse into the performer's mindset and uncover what it takes to harness, control, and use our personal skill set to achieve ultimate success. And now, please welcome your host, the nunchuck spinning, roundhouse kicking, backflip flipping, Eccaia Samson!
Joining us today in the virtual Spill It studio is the one and only Mallory Woods. Mallory is a member of Sport Martial Arts, the leader in sport karate coverage, and has also competed in sport karate competitions for over 20 years. Welcome, Mallory. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Hey, thank you, Eccaia. It's great to be on the other side of the microphone for once.
On a personal note, I just want to take a moment to say thank you for all that you do. During the pandemic, Sports Martial Arts, in collaboration with Mad Action, brought us live virtual martial arts tournaments, which not only kept us competing, but frankly kept us sane. Having live commentators like yourself made us feel less isolated and connected, and I, for one, really appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome, and I accept that on behalf of the great team that we have at SMA and, of course, at Mad Action, which gives us the software itself to run those virtual tournaments. So we really didn't know how much that was going to mean to people until we did it.
Definitely. Like you mentioned, there were so many people involved and so many people volunteering their time to make these tournaments possible. But what was the process of bringing live virtual tournaments like?
So kind of to take it back to the beginning, I remember when Emily told us, like, hey, we're going to try to run a virtual tournament. And we were, kind of thinking amongst ourselves, okay, how are we going to do this? This is usually, if you've never seen us working at an event, and as my dog participates in the background, if you've never seen us at an event, we are always running around doing something. In fact, a lot of the times I'm not able to watch people compete because we're always doing something, solving a problem, trying to figure out the next thing. So this task was brought before us. And my first experience, I got to say, it was really tough. What we did is, if I remember right, we had a Google sheet full of names, and that was shared between a couple of us. We had people come into a Zoom room, and people had to get used to, people were not sure how to start their cameras, how to do things. And
of course,
the first tournament seriously lasted 2 days. It was
I remember that.
One tournament. It was a long time. Plus the fact it was free. So everybody that wanted to come along, we let any and everyone do it. It was a long experience, but like a lot of times, things grow after you do them the first time. It's okay, what worked and what didn't. And part of that was definitely having the software from Mad Action, which enabled us to run more smooth, which enabled us to run more than one room and multiple divisions, and also know, okay, this competitor is going to be here. They are projected to start about this time, and they're in this time. So you could see, okay, we'll run them here for this, and we'll run them here for that. So a lot of that is kind of how Mad Action kind of grew up and evolved into what it is today. But in addition to that, we also had to figure out, how do we do this? One of my earlier thoughts about this was there was a competitor, and I remember she was competing, and I was thinking, like, man, it's kind of dark there. She's outside. It never occurred to me that she was in England. And by the time she came back, it was nearly midnight, and she's out keying in the middle of the street. And I'm thinking, man, her neighbors must love her this time of night. Just wondering what her neighbors were thinking about her.
Oh, yeah. I'm just now thinking about that, because I remember, I would think, oh, yeah, it's midnight, but I never thought about the neighbors who were trying to sleep or whatever, because I know even here, we would run music in our backyard so I could compete, and I remember people would walk by the street and just look at us like, why is she yelling? Why is she swinging around weapons? Why is there a dog?
This COVID thing is really just taken on just everything is going wrong. Yeah, I would wonder a lot of times about some people. We've seen people compete inside of malls, on basketball courts. There's one competitor, I can't remember, his name escapes me right now, but he's always outside. And it's been I would ask him, how cold is it out there? And he'd tell me, and I'm like, man, that's pretty cold to be out there doing kicks and punches. Yeah. We've seen people walk past. We've seen everyone in their living rooms. We've seen baby brothers and baby sisters who love to steal the show from their older siblings. We've seen near accidents with pets. We've seen pets steal the show. We've seen a lot ever since being invited in at everyone's living room during this time of virtual tournaments.
One of my favorite, just like little memories from all the tournaments was at the end when we did like a funny moments little reel that they had. Was the one girl? I think she threw her bow in the air and it broke the window next to her, and I was just like, "Oh my goodness, oh my goodness."
So to peel back the curtain a little bit, there were some times where, so when we first started doing this, one of the things that I would actually do is with these headsets on, you can put an earbud in and you can't see it. So I'm actually talking to one of the guys, it was Ari, who was helping me get some things ready. And so I can listen to Ari just like you would be on like a production studio. So I'm listening to Ari like the director in my ear, but yet the microphone's hot, so I'm there talking about it. So they thought it would be a good idea to start, whenever I would mispronounce someone's name, and let's be honest, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
They would give me the business in my ear, and I'm sitting there trying not to laugh. And at the same time, when an accident like that happens, when you have someone knock something over in their living room or nearly hit the dog, the camera's on me and the microphone's live. So I've quickly learned the art of understanding how to, which I said mute with my button, knowing how to mute myself, because, oh man, sometimes you're trying to hold that straight face. You're trying to hold it in.
Yep.
And things happen live. They do.
I couldn't imagine being in your position because I know I had my camera off and I was completely like off camera muted, and I was still trying not to laugh just in case because just random pets. And I remember one girl, I think she was doing double nunchucks like me, and her dog, I think it was a husky, just came and like just jumped right on her, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, I'm trying. Yeah, and I'm just trying not to laugh because I feel bad, but it's just one of those where I'm like, I could not imagine being in your position where you genuinely have to like keep a straight face. Oh no, I laughed too much. I laughed too much for that.
It is a challenge. It was definitely a challenge. And then once they found out it was funny, because as maybe I'm reading like, okay, so like I said 9.99, I hear something in my ear and I'm trying not to. Fortunately, that time the camera's not on, but you could hear it in my voice. As I'm trying to hold it together and everything. And that's some of the fun part of doing things like that at SMA. We try to have fun with some things. And if you're not the person in front of the camera, the microphone, sometimes you don't think it's so fun when you're trying to hold a straight face or get through what you're doing.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nick.
Oh, I like how you just called him right out. That was perfect.
100% every single time. I'll call him a 2017 Diamond Ring winner, Nick Schneider. He hates when I do that. He absolutely hates that.
And even though virtual tournaments are not the same as in person, we were able to compete with so many people from around the world because, well, they were virtual. But what would you say was your favorite part of virtual tournaments?
So I have to say that at the end of the entire season, one of the things we did, we actually showed this at the end of season 1. We got so many thank you emails, and some people sent videos in. And you really didn't understand how much it meant to people until like at the end of the year. And we started getting these thank yous, and you think, oh, that's just, that's a parent that always says thank you. They're very grateful for the child. There are thousands of them in martial arts and other sports and everything else. But we started getting every day more and more part. And the decision was made, let's kind of put this together. And some of them, being quite honest, really had us close to tears. And there were tears on some of those videos. Sometimes when you're doing something that's good, you don't know the how much it means to other people.
Yeah.
You're doing it because, okay, let's go ahead and do this. This is good for people, but you don't know how much it means to other people. And with that, when we saw that in here, we really realized how much it meant.
Yeah, that was just such a beautiful moment. Like, you really don't realize how much, like, even small things, and this was not a small thing, this was like a huge thing, and I had so much fun when I was competing, but just little things that just mean so much to people, and that was just, it would sound so beautiful.
It was really like, I mean, I didn't expect it to go that way. I really didn't. And it was really cool to see at the end that we could share those moments of those parents saying thank you. And even still today, I think I was in Chicago, and someone just pulled me up and was like, hey, look, we just really have to thank you. I was like, hey, it wasn't all me. We have to share the credit for everyone. And they said, we just want to say thank you to you. We're getting everyone, tracking them down and saying thank you to you. And you could see in the eyes, there was a young lady that came up to me, and she said, I just want to thank you for doing this to my daughter. I'm going to try to get through this without crying. And then her daughter says, no, she's going to cry. It's going to happen. It's just, there it is right there. I want to say thank you before I just burst out of tears. And the only thing I could do was give her a hug, because that was the right thing to do at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I love when kids also just know as well, just she's gonna cry.
Hmm. It's that human element, something that we have been
Yeah,
missing over the past two plus years.
definitely. But have you seen any changes to in-person tournaments since the pandemic?
You're always wondering, okay, so what is this thing going to look like post pandemic?
Yeah,
For the most point, there have been more people there than I've expected. There are people that they can't wait to come out. They've been training for a long time, maybe by themselves, maybe with just a limited amount of people, and they're ready to compete. They're ready to be back out. The entire world is ready to be back out and doing things again. I like to see there are people there. There, I think we'll still see masks and everything else, and a
yeah,
little bit more social distancing for the while. That's going to be here for, I would say, at least for the near foreseeable future.
of
But
course.
people are so glad to see one another, and also what was great was to get a chance to see some of the virtual competitors in person.
Yeah,
Like there were some kids that you were seeing like, oh my gosh, you grew. I actually can tell that you have grown since the last time I've just seen you on a monitor.
yeah.
And meeting little Hugo in Atlanta, I was running back. We were just starting, running back and forth. And the way the Battle of Atlanta is, there's a ring kind of in this middle of in the middle of a foyer in the hotel. So it's a
Yeah.
big giant open space. It's surrounded by vendors. But I was running back and I heard someone say, Mr. Woods, and I turned around, I looked, I didn't see, but then I looked down. It's like, oh, it's Hugo, and his parents said he just wanted to meet you and take a picture. And I was, oh, of course, hey, come on, how you
Ah,
doing, buddy? And how'd you do today? He said, well, I dropped my weapon. I was like, oh, nice. I'm sorry, that happens sometimes.
yeah,
And his parents were just, overjoyed. So meeting people that we have met through the virtual tournament experience has been great.
yeah,
We've seen some competitors that Angel, and I'm not sure if it's Diaz or not. He's from Puerto Rico. He had never competed in an NASCAR tournament before and came and got first place and was on the stage that
mm,
night in Atlanta.
my
I
gosh.
mean, there's Wasim from Canada who's been absolutely doing great things. Those are just a few off the top of my head, and that I can see how the virtual tournaments have helped them either give them confidence or give them an introduction to tournaments that they may have never done before.
Yeah. It's really amazing because also I remember, like, we would just see videos from the beginning of, like, sports martial arts tournaments and virtual, just the pandemic in general, and then
Mhm.
nearing the end, and it was just amazing, at least for me, to just see how much people grew, even when we weren't going to dojos or like, live tournaments or other things like that.
One of the great things about this is that it is logged and we have all of that video. So we can actually go back and say, this was such and such's first virtual tournament, and this is where they are today. And you can see that growth. I do believe that virtual tournaments gave everyone a chance to strive against for something
Yeah.
during this time during the pandemic. So you can see, increasing skill, and training by yourself is very difficult. The one thing I wish we could have done something more, but it was virtually impossible, was for fighters. But everyone
Yeah.
else, they practice their weapon, they practice their kata. They got used to being in front of even just a virtual audience.
Yeah.
As a kid, you go up there and do that introduction the first time. It's tough. You have to say who you are, what kata you're doing, where you're from, and sometimes it just comes out as me, 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 me.
Yeah.
But then 6 months later, here's the same kid, judges representing whatever team name there is. I am whatever my name is, and this
Yeah.
is, and you think that that's the same 7-year-old kid, just 6 months with practice.
Yeah.
It helps
Definitely.
develop you to, public speaking in front of people that you have never met before, etc.
And I'm sure it must feel good to be back commenting on in-person tournaments, but sports martial arts is continuing with their live virtual tournaments as well. Could you tell us more about that?
So we have Corey, who is directing the virtual tournament season. Corey is a fantastic organizer. He's always working hard to get the judges going, to bring in. One of the things that we've been trying to do also is bring in new people to commentate and help us out, like DG, and I think, I'm not sure if Pia has done her own room, but guys like this that are
Yeah.
they're coming up that know the sport in and out, and they're coming in to help out, and they're commenting and they're helping. It's been great, and we have continued this season for this year in 2022, and we have them on the calendar. It's interesting because I'll have one calendar for tournaments that we're going to go to, and I have everything else in life that's going to happen. And then I have to make sure that if I'm needed at these virtual events, I have to make sure I have to budget time
Yeah,
for those as
of
well.
course.
But Corey and the group are fantastic with getting judges, and also there's a challenge there. We've been working with the WKC a lot, and some of those tournaments are they're in Spanish, so we need Spanish speaking judges to help us out in the event that there's a little bit of language barrier. I know that my Spanish is terrible, so we need people like that, like Eric Cordova and Luis and other people to help us with the translation, and it's helping continue that strong in another country. You see about it, so it's something that is going on and continuing, which is great.
And where do you see the evolution of competition taking us as we move forward?
So I thought about that a lot, and I wondered that if there would be actually a model for hybrid in terms of kata and weapons for virtual events. Would and right now I don't necessarily have a definitive answer, because it could be possible, since it's done live, that while imagine you're in your division and it says competitor, this person, and maybe there's a virtual person right here. So they would have to be ready. And maybe on that monitor right there that has all the scores, you would see them doing their kata and they would be judged just like if they were there. That's a possibility. Will things happen like that? Only time will tell.
True.
It's certainly possible. And it kind of helps out for those competitors that maybe they can't, like one of the things, it was always difficult to get to the Pete Nationals because it's all the way on the West Coast.
Of course.
Although West Coast competitors always travel east to compete, but some people would love to maybe compete in that, but they can't afford the travel cost, or it's not available. So that does give a possibility of them competing. But then you also have the competitors that are there that, like, hey, I made the effort, I'm here, whether I came down the street or whether I flew across the country. So that's an interesting question. It's a question I think that doesn't have an answer for, but it will currently evolve, just like all things do.
That was definitely something that I really loved with like the whole virtual tournaments, auditions, and everything, is how I got to compete like for Ocean State Grand Nationals. I know that's a very big one, and I wanted to go for years, but we just couldn't like afford to travel all the way with like other tournaments like WKC and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And so just being able to do it virtually was great, because finally I was able to do that, but I didn't have to worry about travel and all that stuff.
I mean, also there's a lot to be said for being in person. You bond with people that you're competing with.
Yeah.
You bond, you see growth. Just a day and a half ago, John Paul Mitchell just announced that they have a number of different new members on there. I think it was Ben Jones, Angel Diaz, Nicola. I'm forgetting her name now. She's from that area. Same as to Nicola. I can't remember her name. It'll come to me in a second. But they announced a number of different competitors that have joined that rich history of John Paul Mitchell.
Yeah.
And you see growth like that. You see people come about, and a lot of that is important. Being there face to face, being there in the moment. But I do believe that we, as COVID has changed the world entirely, we continue to evolve in the way we eat, the way we live, the way we work, and the way we live in a post-COVID world. So other things will have to evolve with it.
Of course. All right, let's shake things up a bit with our first minute segue. It's a speed round of Would You Rather. 3 questions, 30 seconds on the clock. Are you ready?
All right, let's go.
All right. Would you rather spend a week in the forest or a night at a real haunted house?
Week in the forest.
Same, definitely. Sing a duet with Ryan Reynolds or work out with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson?
Oh, that's tough. Oh, man. I'm going to sing with Ryan Reynolds. That's a once in a lifetime.
That is, and I feel like you would have a great time. All right, and would you rather have a pet tarantula or a pet toad?
I would say pet toad. I've had those before.
Really? I would have to go with tarantula. My Nana would have a heart attack if that got out, but but I actually have a fear of like toads. Not frogs in particular, but toads. I don't mind them from a distance, but just don't come near me.
Is it the rough skin? Is it the
It's the eyes.
Oh,
the eyes, like the little, I don't even know what the word would be, but like they kind of pop out of their head a little bit. That is no, it doesn't matter if it's on a frog, a cat, no, that is one thing. Not afraid of a lot, but that is one thing that are just like, no, No.
See, right now I'm filing this away. So if ever it needs to be brought up again, or if there's ever a toad and we're at a tournament, good prank session. I don't know. Well, that's filed away for later.
Oh God. Oh no. Oh no. I'm probably gonna regret this very soon.
Possibly.
I like how that was just honest. Just yep, possibly. All right.
That's the life of the SMP reporter.
True. Now let's talk about you. Now, how did you get involved with sports martial arts? Is there a story you'd like to share?
Sure. And so the first thing I'll say, and it's no problem. So if you can actually find this, and I will probably send it to you or your mom in a link. So sport martial arts, because this is one of Nick's favorite. There's a compilation he made of me saying sports martial arts with an S on it. I was at the Diamond Nationals. I interviewed Raymond Daniels, Jack Felton, Cameron Dawson, so on and so forth. And he just put that sports all the way in the end. And I was like, okay, I got it. I remember there's no S, no problem. I'll take care of it. But to go back to how I actually got involved. So years ago, when I was actively competing all the time, I was in college. Most people don't know I started martial arts when I was 19. I was a junior. I started way late. And I started at a junior school first because it was right close to my college. And then eventually I was able to continue my classes with Gerald Dawson's up in Maryland's Finest Karate and near Baltimore, Maryland. But the thing that was great about that, I was able to travel 30 minutes away and go right from campus. And I started competing. I've always loved to compete at a number of different things. And when I was coming up, there were these legendary stars in this division like a Pedro Xavier, Donald Ronald Brady, all these guys out there, and I primarily fight. And I knew that's what I was getting into. And back then, if you just crack the top 10, you're doing quite well. So I knew what was ahead of me. So I just practiced a ton. And as I was competing, I saw Emily Cooper out there. She was a fighter as well. She used to wear a yellow gi that said Cooper along the shoulder blades and like an arc on her back. And a lot of times she would be in the finals, and I, through friends, met her, and we would see each other. And if I remember right, she was in law school at the time. So I was finishing my degree in computer science, and she was finishing and then also going to law school or somewhere around there. So there was one tournament that I saw her at, and she had a small VHS-C camera, the kind that would fit like right on your palm. Oh. And I said, what are you doing? She says, she was living in Ohio at the time, and she said, I have a school out here, and I bring all these kids out, and parents always ask, like, how did my kid do? And she said, well, instead of saying, oh, your kid did great, this is great, they were doing good till they dropped the weapon, or they just stood up there and didn't know, they act like we never practiced. But she would record that, and she said, I had this great idea of recording these clips and taking pictures and putting it on the internet. Now, to almost put a virtual pause in this right now, you have to understand the technology at the time. You would have to record something on VHS tape, and you would have to digitize it and pull it into your computer, and then you would have to display it. And it was probably like 240 by something. It was really tiny. It was really tiny in terms of quality. And to quote, there's a friend of mine who said, I would actually see a video. I would start the download process, go to class, and then come back and it would just be finished. There was no broadband. Everyone was using dial-up. So putting videos on a website was tough. It was hard.
Yeah.
So I saw Emily out there, and she said, I'm going to go do this. And I asked her, I said, well, how many pictures have you taken a day? She said, about 50, maybe I'll have maybe 100 when I'm done. I said, so you're going to create 100 different web pages for each picture? She said, no, I never thought about that. And at the time I was developing in a language called Cold Fusion. And I said, I can write you something that writes one page and you point it to the director and it shows multiple pictures. Ooh. Because if not, you're going to really hate life in trying to do every one of these with every picture, every video came. So Mazzalink, not sport martial arts, Mazzalink, martial arts. I'm trying to remember what that even stood for. But Mazzalink was born, and I helped her with some of the development process. She actually became, to give her full credit, she actually became a pretty decent programmer too. So she would ask me and a friend of mine questions. We would say, hey, do it this way, or right, here's a function you could use. And so as things started to grow, I was still competing, and I noticed Emily was covering more and more tournaments. She was, she was being at everyone. Promoters were bringing her in. It was the dawn of everyone was kind of getting on the internet. Smartphones were coming about, so people can see clips here and there. And she eventually contacted me and asked me if I could come help out. I think it was at Amerikick, which is a quick 2.5 hour drive for me. And I would go up and she said, I'm going to put you in charge of the Twitter account. Oh, great. So I'm going to, try to be as smart alecky as possible and send information and everything. So I was doing that. And then, eventually it was like, hey, can you help cover this? And probably when I knew it was kind of like a permanent thing, she contacted me and said, can you take a week off and go to Ireland? I said, well, of course. She said, for the WKC, I need you to go there. I can't make it. I got some stuff going on. And Nick can't make it. So we're going to give you the equipment and you're going to fly out there and you're going to cover the WKC. So I went out there to do this by myself.
Oh my God.
I had a lot of help from Tressa Young and her mother and father, who helped me take some pictures while one camera was doing video and one camera was taking pictures. So that was kind of the start of doing it permanently. This is before live streams. Now today, we live stream because it can reach a whole lot larger audience and it's instant. And we also try to record as well so we can have that for footage, or also if we need to go back and chop it up, or if something special happens at that point, we have a permanent and a high definition record of it. So it's kind of the roundabout story of how I got involved in sport martial arts.
Yeah. But I just love that one part is, can you take a week off and go to Ireland? I'm sorry. Yes, definitely.
Yes, exactly was the answer. And that trip itself, I had a friend who was living in England at the time, a childhood friend, and I went to go visit him, only to find out that he had just taken his family to Greece for the week. But I spent 2 days in London. I flew to England. It was really funny because the first time I flew, had never, besides going to Canada and Mexico, I never used my passport in Europe. And I fly into Dublin at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm somewhat jet lagged. And the customs officer says, "Oh, Mr. Woods, what are you here for?" And I said, "I'm here for a karate tournament." He says, "All right." Stamps the passport. I leave, and I go right back around and catch a flight. I go hang out in England for 2.5 days or a day and a half, and I come back and I hit the exact same customs officer when I come back a day and a half later. He looks at the passport. He looks at me. He's like, "Now, didn't I just check you into the country?" And I said, "Yes, sir. I went to England. I just went there. I've never been there before." One of the goes is, "All right, but I'm not giving you another stamp." I said, "No problem. I don't want to be in trouble or anything." But it was a great experience. I'd never been to Europe before. I have been to Ireland so many times since, and the martial arts and through SMA allowed me to travel, and it's something I'm very grateful for.
Yeah, that's something I also loved with martial arts is I like basically every country I've been to or just place outside of Canada is because of martial arts, like WKC in particular. We went to Ireland for WKC. We were supposed to go to Spain, but COVID, of course. We loved the pandemic. But yeah, we were supposed to go to Spain, but we went to Orlando and just all these places because of martial arts. And so that's also one of the reasons why I love the sport, because while I love the chucks, I love martial arts, but also I get to travel and just go and compete in just other places with other people. So
having that real world experience where you begin to understand that wherever you're located, whether you're in Canada, Ireland, United States, California, wherever at in this world, that is your world where you're at. You're used to that. You know what to expect when you walk outside your door. When you go to someone else's place in a different part of the world, you see they do things different, but yet the same. There are different people there. They have different customs. They have different food. They have different mannerisms. And it's something, I think if I remember, I'll quote Johnny Tension here. He says, travel is something that you invest in, but it always pays. It was something you spend money on, but always pays you back.
yeah,
And that is absolutely the truth there, because you learn so much more about different places and different people. And you're right. I was really looking forward to going to Spain and 2020. And actually before, it was supposed to be in Scotland.
I remember that.
And it changes. I was looking forward so much to going to Scotland because I had been reading up about it. I'm a big history nerd, and I couldn't wait to go see the countryside and all the different offerings that country had. And they said, "Oh, it's not going to be in Scotland. Where's it going to be? In Spain?" I said, "I'll allow it. That's sure. I think I can deal with Spain for a week, sure." And then, of course, history did not have that in plans.
All right, and you've interviewed so many incredible athletes over the years. Is there someone who you haven't had the opportunity to interview but would love to?
I have. When I saw this question, I couldn't wait to answer it. So I'm a huge fan of MMA, also because of the martial arts, and I enjoy the sport. And there has been a rising commentator for the UFC named Laura Senko. Laura Senko is, in addition, an original karate practitioner. She's only fought one time, but she became a commentator from the UFC and is now one of the few women that are on the desk in terms of giving the opinion of a woman for what one time had been a male-dominated sport. She's very witty. She knows exactly what she's talking about. I follow her, so this is kind of like fan service for myself because I loved watching her career from her just reporting in the locker room to now she is giving commentary and analysis for breakdowns of techniques and prediction of fights. And hopefully one day I'll be able to interview her. That's the whale I'm currently chasing. That's what I'm looking forward to.
All right, now it's time for Spilled segue number 2 called Fact or Fiction. As quickly as you can, answer the following questions. All right, fact or fiction, you're not a fan of Marvel movies.
That's fiction.
All right, fact or fiction, you have 2 Pomeranians.
Fiction.
And fact or fiction, you're not a fan of the UFC.
Also fiction. 3 fictions in a row.
Yay! I wish I had 2 Pomeranians. Sorry, that's completely just random, but I wish I had 2 Pomeranians. I love the dogs. My mom won't let me get one because of the hair, but still.
I was gonna say, I hope you like brushing hair with Pomeranians. You're gonna be spending a lot of time grooming that dog.
Yes. So now let's get back to our questions. And number 1 is, what made you decide that commenting and doing interviews was something that you wanted to do?
So the story behind that is that it wasn't anything that I knew I wanted to do. And one of the things that I discovered that I would say good or okay at is that when we would spar, in Maryland's Best, a lot of times we have a lot of people up there. And so one of the, pulling the curtain behind Biggie Small's first album, we would start working out at the beginning of the first song, and we went into the end of the last song. I don't remember how long that was, over an hour, but I knew where we were at the workout by what song was playing. So after a while, you're definitely tired. You're trying to keep people's spirits up. So one of the things that I would do is I would pretend I had a microphone, and whoever was sparring there for the 2 minutes, I would describe it. And I'd be as absolutely sarcastic as possible. And the thing is that it's funny in the dojo, but then when you're doing it live over, you don't want to offend anyone, you want to do anything, but it would go kind of like this. And there's Joe right there with a spinning back kick. Oh, to the bread basket. He's going to feel that tomorrow. Definitely going to move some of that food around, but looks like he's going to retaliate. Definite feeble back fist that didn't score. Judges said, get that out of here. And you just run and flow with whatever is happening.
Yeah.
So I did that for fun.
Yeah,
and
of course.
It was one year at the U.S. Open, since it was broadcast on ESPN, we really didn't have anything to do with the night. So Emily said, hey, let's do a pre-show. And I was like, okay, what do you want to do? She said, what we're going to do is everybody at the U.S. Open is behind the stage and they're getting ready. So I figured we'd do about 15 minutes and you can interview the people that are there. I was like, all right, cool. That 15 minutes turned to 90 minutes. And it was all live. So I'm there with a microphone. I have nothing in my ear, so nobody's telling me anything. And I'm just there saying, okay, well, who do we have next? Oh, we've got Tyler Weaver. Hey, it's Tyler Weaver. I know some John Paul Mitchell. His dad right here. What are you guys looking for? How many times you've been to the U.S. Open? So I had to think on my feet for 90 minutes. No practice, thrown in, go. Just do it. And that's one of our highest rated videos that's out there. I forget how many views it's had, but literally I had my buddy Jamie right there, and Jamie was grabbing people to come in, and I had trouble because sometimes the people, I didn't recognize them. So I would do things like, well, it looks like you're here for board breaking. I'm going to let you introduce yourself. You are. And then I'd find out their name.
Smart.
And I would say, okay, well, where are you from? Such and such. And I could carry the conversation out. And I kind of look over to Emily, who's behind the camera. She's like, we have this guy next. And I'm like, okay, I don't know who that is. Okay, I'll handle it. So it enabled me to think fast and everything. And one of probably the best compliments I got is from Ski Alston. I think it was a WKC. He was listening because it was over in Ireland, and I was commenting on what was happening between the men's team fighting, and he had to go open his dojo. And he said, I just turned my phone on, I put it in, I plugged the speakers in, and it was like listening to baseball. You painted the picture perfectly. You told what was happening. You kept me constantly updated on the score, the time, and everything else. And I was able to get to, without missing a beat. Yeah. And it is a bit of a challenge to paint what's happening, describe the technique, describe what's happening. Probably the biggest trouble I have is I don't know always who is who. So I'll know one person. So like, let's say Robbie Lavoie right now. Like, okay, I know this Robbie. I don't know who he is fighting. And I try to find out during the middle of the fight so I can call that person at least by name. A lot of times I'll end up saying the fighter in red or the fighter, whatever team they represent, but still try to equally give them some credit for whatever they're doing at the time. If they score good technique, call it out. But that's been fun. It's been, you have to be able to think, see, describe, and talk of what's happening. And I always try to think of it as someone is their first time watching this. How do you get them to understand it more?
Yeah, definitely. That was really smart, though. Like, you don't know someone, so you just build a conversation to allow them to introduce themselves to everyone but you. It's smart.
It's also great for jokes. One of the time we did another pre-show right before Capitol Classics, and Sammy Smith was warming up here on the side. And I said, okay, hey, we're guys in about 30 minutes. We're going to be ready for the nighttime show. We've got competitors like this person, this person. Oh, and there's Sammy Smith warming up. Hey, Sammy, come on over here for a second. And then I just gave her the microphone and I left. And she was like, what do I do? I said, hey, you're live. Go ahead, you do it. And she was like a deer in headlights because she didn't totally expect that. So I said, I'll come back on a rescue and everything. Don't worry. But that was a fun little thing that we do sometimes to people. So you never know if it's a live mic and it's a live broad, it might happen to you.
Okay. Notice I'll stay far away. Just to stay far back.
Oh, you'll never see it come. It's like, hey, would you mind doing an interview real quick? For this. I'll give you another story. There was a young boy that I met from Scotland named Lachlan, if I'm pronouncing that. I think it's right. He's about 6 years old. And when I was over there, this is in Ireland, he says, Dad, it's the man from the TV. It's the man from Sport Martial Arts. And I'm like, hey, what's going on, buddy? Just, and his dad came and says, hey, he wants to take a picture. I was like, yeah, sure, please, come on over here. And I asked him how old he was and how long he had been practicing. And at that time, we were doing these little 1-minute recaps at the end of the day, like, hey, this is what happened today at WKC day 2. We had blah, 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 this, that, and the other. And I asked him if he wanted to do the outro, which is like, stay tuned tomorrow and, come on up. And he says, no, I'm too scared. I says, well, what's scary about it? He says, well, I don't think that people will like it. I said, all you have to do is just say, this is Lachlan, and tomorrow we'll be here, for whatever I told him to say. So I told Nick, I said, just roll, just start rolling. So he starts rolling. I said, well, what will be the hard part about it? I said, you would just look in the camera. If that camera was on and just say, go ahead. And he says, this is Lachlan, and join us tomorrow for day 3 at WKC. And I said, there, you just did it. It's live. So a year later, I saw his parents and I went and I said, so how did he enjoy that? He says, oh, he went to school beaming about everyone, how he was on the internet. He says, it just gave him so much confidence. And those are the cool little things that you see and are able to do for people, which was really fun. And I think he's got to be around like maybe 9 or 10 now. So I'm looking forward to seeing him. If maybe we go back to Ireland this year, hopefully we're able to go back and hopefully he'll be able to travel over from Scotland. So it was really cool to see, and do something like that.
That's so sweet. Like, I just couldn't imagine this little kid, like, just going to school, just like, I was on TV. Like, what an amazing experience this kid just had. But it's genuinely amazing, like, the stuff you can do when you don't actually prepare. Like, you don't think you're on camera, because then you just do it naturally. You don't prepare, and then you're like, oh, well.
That wasn't that hard, Who knows? I mean, you might be on TV in a couple of years. Might have started somebody's acting career. That'd be great.
Your commenting and interview style is very refreshing. You're enthusiastic, encouraging, and non-judgmental, as opposed to some of the styles I've seen where it seems less focused on the individual or event and more focused on the controversy, the negatives, and what dirt can be dug up. I'd love it if you share your thoughts and insight into that.
So one of the things I think about, the last 2 tournaments and last few that I've done, I've had Jackson Rudolph in the booth with me. Let me tell you right now how much of an asset it is to have. Jackson is a living thesaurus, a dictionary, encyclopedia, wiki of any and all martial arts. So I'll tell you an area that I struggle in. I'm more focused on the fighters because that's where I did a lot of my competing. So I'll struggle a lot of times for kata and weapons competitors. Now, some of them I've seen, and some of them I've not. But I know that if there's not someone that I know Jackson knows them. He knows the kata. He knows a lot of times he's helped train them. So that's been such a relief. In terms of putting a positive aspect on it, it's something that I think we need more of. And I'll spin this into something that I'm very thankful of. So a lot of things that we have all been affected from by COVID is that it affected anyone. I mean, everyone. It affected everyone, whether you had $1 million in the bank or if you only had $10 in the bank. This affected us globally. And one of the things that that was a positive that came out of this is when we were doing a lot of our virtual shows before we did virtual tournament, I did a series with Raymond Daniels, and I asked Canadian broadcaster Robin Black if he would come on and help break down footage with Raymond Daniels and myself. And we did it. And Raymond was impressed with in terms of what Rob, hey, I see that there's a little turn right there. You're going to throw that sidekick. Raymond was impressed with like seeing the techniques, because a lot of times as someone like him, he would have trouble showing someone how to do this and teaching them when it's just so natural to him. When you have to break down the thought process from how do I throw this kick? How do I set this kick up? You have to tell them what you're thinking. A lot of times it doesn't translate. Anyone that's ever taught anything, the challenge is in translating what you want to teach to someone that's trying to learn it. Yeah. And after that show, Robin said, hey, I'm actually doing some stuff with Bellator. Would you like to come on on Friday nights and join me? And we'll talk about some fights and we'll have some great time. So we developed a great friendship through COVID that we'll do an occasional podcast that's on our channel in Black Belt Magazine, where we'll just talk about the martial arts. And his philosophy is, don't wait to get started, just do it. And do it naturally. Just let it organically grow. So we'll get on and we'll talk about issues from Black Belt Magazine. We'll talk about a couple of things. We don't always have to go out there and do the thing that everybody else is doing. This guy's fighting this guy. Who do you think is going to win? And you're shoehorning yourself into everything that everyone's doing. Yeah. So focus on the positive. People love to hear. There's so much negative in the world with, you turn on or read a newspaper, or open a book, anything, there's negative that's going to be out there. So let's focus on this moment in the positive. This is this first person's tournament. They've come, they've never made the stage before and they won. Talk about, I'll ask like Jackson, what did it mean the first time you actually won when you got on the stage? And it's like, I was floating on cloud nine. Or, he tells me about the first time he met Mike Chat, or he met someone that he had been looking up to him. So you focus on that positive, and it turns out to be a better experience for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, now it's time for Spilled Segue number 3, called Just a Minute. I'm going to give you a topic, and your task is to talk about that topic for 1 full minute. Are you ready?
There we go. Yes, let's do it.
All right. Your topic is MMA fighting. Go.
So the sport of MMA has only been around for legalized for about 25 years, with the last state in the United States being New York to legalize MMA. MMA answers, or at least tries to answer, the grand old question: if you have a Taekwondo black belt and a Judo black belt, and these two guys fight under a rule set, who would win? If anything, it has shown us that one needs to be more rounded in terms of mixed martial arts, in terms of fighting on the ground, defending chokes, defending takedowns, in addition to the striking of karate, Muay Thai, boxing, etc. Having this serves to make you for a complete martial artist, but it still doesn't answer the question, who's going to win? Well, that question is found out every day. If you have the same people fight 10 different times, you're going to have 10 different results. You will always learn from that progress. So in a sense, that means there is no losing. You win or you learn. That is the philosophy of jiu-jitsu. And if we could all do that, you never look at anything as a loss. You only look at it as a lesson.
Wow.
1 minute on topic.
What? We had about 2 seconds. Oh my God. Okay, I just like how that it seemed like you planned that. Like you do.
I didn't have that. I didn't have that question, or at least is one that I glanced over. It was just, when you're able to freely flow for whatever topic it was about, you can speak passionate about it.
That was right on point too, because we don't this will probably be edited out, but we didn't even have that written. I was just like, you know what? Last minute, I'm just gonna switch it up, come up with the topic, and go. And then you were just we don't tell to people the topics anyways, but that was
that's a genuine reaction. You asked me that 5 different times. I'm gonna give you 5 different answers, but it's a genuine reaction. Even so, we used to do exercises like this in ROTC. I spent 4 years of high school ROTC and 1 year of college ROTC. ROTC stands for Reserve Officer Training Corps. For me, it was Air Force ROTC. And the first day that you're in class, they make you get up in front of class and talk and introduce yourself for 5 minutes. This is absolutely terrifying for someone in high school that has never spoken in front of their peers. But they drill it into you so that you should be able to speak about, like if you asked me about, could you describe why you like the Pythagorean theorem? I'm like, oh my God, I don't even remember that. And I would be able to just come up with some answer of like, oh, well, it's a mathematical property that has been proven over time. And it's enabled us to build great structures by, this is the truth.
Yeah.
And I would just roll on. That would be it.
Improv. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. I mean, I guess like when it comes with like commenting and everything, I guess like that would be something that being spontaneous is something that you have to do, because I'm sorry, I don't think sparring fights are planned.
No, and they're going to be different every single time. Every time you run a different fight, it's going to be different. So you have to be able to talk about to what you're given. Injuries happen, and also when it happens during that time, you can't just speak to, like we'll say such a competitor's down. It looks like it may have been an injury to the knee, but the medical personnel are there, and that's great. And I know that competitor. This is the last way the other opponent would like to win, and hopefully everything's okay. And you have to keep things going. From being in podcasting, dead air is the enemy. You don't want to just have long pauses. So you have to fill that with some sort of banter.
Well, it's important too, because I know like pauses are awkward. They just are. And then also though, you want to be prepared like with something, rather it's just you're prepared with improv or whatever, because you don't want to like say something that you were meaning to like offensive or something and not even trying to be. That I'm knocking on wood here, because thankfully that has not yet happened to me, but just I've seen it happen. It's just people, they say stuff because, well, awkward. Just silence is awkward.
Mm-hmm. It can happen. And fortunately, right now you have the power of the edit button. If something comes out and you say something embarrassing, you could chop that out. But when you're live, it is what it is. Well, so it's tough sometimes.
Well, when we were first launching my podcast, Spill It, my acting coach, he was actually the first guest we had on the show. And he just turns around one class and goes, okay, so yes, your interview that we scheduled is for next Friday. Great, we're doing it live. I had never done an interview ever, like in my life. Like we've thought about it. We've made questions, like everything was good. But I had never done an interview. And so it was just, okay, breathe, prepare, and go. To be fair, I'd also never done a live stream before. So that just added to it. But we did it. We got through it.
And let's see, this is perfect for you to use, because however you edit this on up. I'll tell you the first story of my live stream with SMA Live. I'd researched the idea of being able to do a live broadcast. We had to figure out how to do it, get a camera, get a nice microphone like the one I have here, the type of camera, lighting, something I didn't know anything about. And the first show I did by myself, and I had gone to New York 2 weeks prior and gotten some footage for, it was Maggie's, I can't remember Maggie's last name, but it was a tournament. And I flew out and flew in the same day, and I got some, so I showed a clip. But I remember how tense I was. I was holding onto the desk. I was holding onto this desk right here, and I felt like I was going to be able to lift the chair up with my legs, and I had to breathe and relax. I understand that there are people out there. They can see me. I can't see them, and I had to relax. And then Jamie joined me as a co-host, which was very good to be able to rely on someone else and to take the pressure off. And when we would meet an hour before the showtime. We were doing our shows at night. I think we started 8, maybe sometimes late at night, and not understanding that, hey, we'll do it late at night, but the replay value for someone that's going to get up tomorrow morning and watch this was good as well. But we would meet an hour before then and prep. And now, literally the way I do my interviews now is I'll get someone to agree to it. We'll agree on the meeting time, just like we did with this. I'll have a few soft questions or anything I want. Maybe I'll make them up on the fly. I bring it up to them like, hey, is there anything you don't want to talk about first? Let's not cover maybe this. And hey, I'm going to ask you about this. And if you're ready, we'll go. And I have an outline. I'll have it on this monitor to my left, and I'll go from that. And then that'll spawn a different question, and I'll kick it out there. And it's really involved in almost like there's something for being prepared, but there's also something from going fresh as well. You're definitely learning that.
Yes. Definitely. And I feel like just things look so much more natural, but even unscripted moments in movies, like just little things that weren't planned, those are the moments where you really like feel emotion towards like that character, or rather you're watching a podcast and you're like, oh, I never thought about that. Just the raw questions or comments or whatever are really, I think, what add to just like the whole whatever you're watching, listening to, or
The spontaneous moments are great. It reminds me, there's a moment in one of the Fast and Furious movies where The Rock says something to one of the characters, and he spontaneously responds. And it was Ludacris was drinking something, and he did actually a real spit take. And the director said, "Oh, we're taking this. It's too good. It's too good of a reaction." And when asked about it, Ludacris says, "No, I really did spit my drink out." What The Rock said was, he said something to Tyrese, and he just responded, and he spit his drink out. And it was that good of a reaction that you have to use it. It's genuine. People love real. We hate fake.
exactly. And I remember in one of the Marvel movies, well, there's actually been a couple moments that I've seen in the Marvel movies, but one in particular, I think it was in Infinity War, maybe Endgame. It was one of those two last ones. And what was the actor? I forget the actor, but the line was like, "I'll give you one better. Why is Gamora?" That line, and that was like my favorite line in the entire movie. Like it was so good. Like it just fit so perfectly.
It works with the character, the delivery, everything. And you get gold like that. Sometimes you turn on a camera or a microphone and you don't know what's going to come out, but once you're done, like, that was good. That was what we want.
Exactly. Okay, let's have fun and get to know a little bit more about you with some of Spillet's just curious questions.
All right.
What would you say is the most important problem to solve in our world today, and why?
I would say hunger. Anytime that anyone on this planet goes to bed hungry, it's a crime. We have so much available planet-wise that we should be able to feed. And in addition, hunger goes into housing. Everyone should be able to have a place to something to eat and a place to sleep.
Definitely, I completely agree. And if you could have dinner with any 3 people, dead or alive, doesn't matter, who would they be and why?
So I tried to not think of this too much in advance. The first name I came up was with Dr. Martin Luther King. It's tough because you would be talking to him and saying, "Hey, you changed the world. You were just a regular everyday person. How does it feel to change the world? What was your vision? Were you ever scared? You were ever discouraged?" Asking everyone, because historical figures, we always see the end result of what they did. This person was brave and they did this, that, and the other. And sometimes you have to ask them, like, "Hey, man, when they were shooting at you, were you scared?" And "Of course I was. I was wondering if this was the right move the entire time." And have someone be real with you. So MLK would be one. I would have to say Bruce Lee. I have to definitely go back to someone that I think all of us, look up to, and to hear his, as he was a philosophy major in college, to hear his philosophy on the martial arts. And he would be someone I would love, if it was possible, for him to look at the martial arts today and to get his take on things, and to hear what he has to say about the explosion and the availability for any and everyone to learn not only whatever martial art they want, but you can teach it to everyone. The third one, if I had, and I'm not taking any more time to think about this because I want to answer fresh. I'm going to go obscure. I would love to talk to any of my grandfathers because I've never met them. They all passed away. And I would love to talk to them about, hey, when you were doing this, what did you do? Because we can learn a lot from our relatives, especially those who have lived it, to help us live better and hopefully have better lives. There would be so much to learn. I mean, if you can imagine right now, we're living through time right now, that there would be someone, maybe a grandchild of yours, or grandniece, or grandnephew, or someone descendant of yours in the future, that would wonder what you were like. Through the magic of things like this, we'll have video and everything else, and there's pictures. But you would, if someone that you may not live long enough to talk to them, they could kind of come back and say, "Oh, these are videos of your great grandmother. Oh, wow, that's cool. I never, or the idea that ancestor that lived 100 years before me, that they would be interested in me, like, you're wondering what their daily life is. They probably had no idea, or had no possible idea, that people would want to trace back their family roots, to know where you came from, where you lived, what your daily life was like. They were just trying to live life just like we're trying to live it not thinking that someone, a future relative, would want to know more about them.
Definitely. And can you share a situation that's occurred in your life that you feel provides insight to you as a character?
Um, I'm trying to think of a specific situation, but I always like this quote, which is, so when you find out that it's hard, what you do next is going to prove who you are as a person. There have been many decisions, whether they're financial, whether they're educational, whether it's just a person that you know that, okay, I've got to do something that's going to be hard next. Immediately there's fear about whatever the situation is. If you're thinking that, oh, I don't want to go through that, that's going to be embarrassing, that's going to be tough, anything can happen. Maybe it's a situation at your job. Maybe you saw someone that was they were stealing, they were doing something, and you're like, do I say something? What do I do? And you know that the conversation you have next is going to be difficult. I believe that actually through the martial arts and discipline and everything, it kind of prepares you for that, to do something that's difficult and to stick through it. That's a lesson that has come from life, from ROTC, from martial arts. It's always difficult, and it's something that no matter what the situation is, you carry it through. You be direct, you be honest. And that will say a lot about you to someone else that maybe have not even met you or know you as a person.
Yeah, definitely. And now this is actually one of my favorite questions today. But what would your pets say about you if they could talk?
They would say that I don't share enough food with them. Here's a good story about these. If you guys have watched virtual tournaments, I have three Jack Russells. Sometimes they're in the room with me, sometimes they're not. I got an ankle injury playing soccer last year, and I was home by myself. Nobody else was here, and I got the injury. I continued playing the game because I'm hard-headed, and we were short people. And I remember leaving the field, and the field was nice and flat. When I was trying to walk on any uneven surface, I had tremendous pain. I mean, my foot was throbbing. I just knew I had broken something bad. I remember calling my mother when I was driving home, just like, I just need to talk to me. My foot's in tremendous pain. And I had made dinner for myself before going. It was a late game and I wanted to have dinner ready. So I started to eat. I managed to limp my way in the house, crawl my way up to the steps, and I was starving. I was eating. And because the pressure was so much on my ankle, I started to get lightheaded. I need to lay down and put my foot up. So I removed myself from the kitchen and come and lay down on the couch and get my foot elevated before I pass out. And one of my dogs came over and said, "Oh my gosh, are you okay? Okay." And then I hear this jingling, and I look up, and the other dog is jumping on the table eating my food. So it's nice to know that if I'm over here dying, that one dog is going to be right at my side. The other is going to be, I'm getting what I can get right now because I'm unsupervised. So my pets would say he needs to share more people food with us because it's delicious.
Terrible, but in the best way possible. Just one dog will be there for me if I'm dying. The other one will be like in my fridge, right? Like getting whatever they can get. She's
going to town. Like, oh, thank you, Lulu. Appreciate it. As she winks at me from the bed.
I love when animals just look back at you and are just like, "What? What did I do? Are you talking about me?
Why are you surprised? Come on, you know what you know what this is like when you got into it. Why are you surprised?"
Yeah, that's exactly the look. And what movie, no matter how many times you've seen it, do you have to watch when it's on?
Back to the Future.
that was just a solid answer.
Right there, right in the quiver. For me, it's a movie that is, because everyone's always wondered what if. And realistically speaking, if I came and said, "Okay, or no, don't tell anyone, but I can send you back in time and you can make a different choice if you want to. Are you curious? Would you like to see your mom at your age? Would you like to see your dad?" These curious situations. And I think that most people will be like, "Yeah, I want to go back and see." Or what can I do to make things better? Should I have done A or B? Or how one decision at one time in your life sets you up for either success or failure. So that movie gives the question there that if you had the chance, would you do it?
Yeah. Fun fact, I've actually never seen it. I've never seen Back to the Future.
So it's not often you assign homework on podcasts, but the next time I talk to you, I want to hear that you watch this, and we're going to discuss it.
All right, I'm writing this down because I have a pen here. I have paper.
Yes.
We're just gonna write this down because, well, why not? Because I probably will forget. I have to write everything down.
I understand that completely. There's nothing like panic of knowing that something's due and you have not gotten it done.
Yep.
That is true panic. Sometimes we need that pressure.
Well, exactly. Just that little bit of pressure and that little bit of panic. Sometimes you do your best work when, well, you're panicked.
When you're under the gun, yes, definitely so.
And now describe your life using film titles.
Okay. Let's see. That's a good question. So I've got to come up with give a second. So let's go with the classic Superman, because I try to do any and all things. Let's see. The Empire Strikes Back, because those things always don't work out. There's always something new to figure out. I haven't seen the film yet, but we'll say Uncharted, because a lot of times I'm always doing something new and trying to figure it out. And Rudy. It's a great underdog story. So I think of that for me. I'm short. I'm always trying to, compete in this division with the taller people in it. So you've got to have that. I believe I can get it done, even though I'm the underdog. So I'll leave Rudy as my last one.
I would have to agree specifically with that one, just because I don't really spar much anymore. I'm getting back into it, I am. But for a while I didn't spar. Also, though, because it was never fair in my division, because they would do it based on weight, but I would be fighting someone who's like 6 feet tall. Meanwhile, I'm 4 feet. And I'm like, how is this fair? Hit my head 3 times, and I have to like try and punch upwards so that I'm not hitting you in the thigh.
Yeah, I always taught my students that if you're short, you're always going to be short. So just get used to being the shorter fighter. Just accept it, be with it. So therefore, you use the ability for speed, elusiveness, and everything else. So you highlight that. If you ever needed an example of that, Robbie Lavoie. Look at Rob. Look at the people that Robbie has beaten. Robbie don't care that he's short. And Robbie's one of the only fighters I fought that's shorter than me, which threw me off. Like, wait a minute, I'm taller than Robbie? Hold on. This is timeout. This is new. I have the height advantage. This is different. It threw me off when fighting him. But when you're short, you always know you're going to be short. So accept it and let's move on and do it.
True. Yeah, you figure out ways, and you have to be fast. I definitely think in the sparring, if you're going to be short, you have to be able to be fast. Because in particular, people like to go straight for your head because it's very accessible. And so it's just like, you'll move to the side and people go, boop, boop. It was constant. It was constant. So you figure out ways, hopefully.
I have fingers crossed for you.
Exactly. And now, what would you say is your superpower?
My superpower would be the ability to think on my feet and to provide a solution. As I mentioned before, there are times with SMA that if any of you who never believe this, please come and intern with us one tournament and see what we're doing. Where we're there, and it's like, okay, nighttime show is going to begin right now, and nighttime show is going to start in 5 minutes, and we have no internet. Mal, go figure it out. Okay, all right, I'm running. Okay, cable's okay. I'm able to get an IP address. What's going on? And then literally, there's like Gabrielle Union. There's Gabrielle walking up there, scary, singing the national anthem, and it's like, got it. Okay, go. And it's a last second fix. This literally happened at the US Open last year. We were trying to get a monitor working because it's easy as we're sitting out there looking at the camera to see a monitor right above you, in the distance so that you could see what's going on. But this monitor wouldn't work. And it was the strangest thing. It was a Westinghouse monitor. Now, once again, pulling the curtain back, I worked at Best Buy for years in Geek Squad. I remember an email that came in that said, we will not accept Westinghouse monitors back because they have a fatal flaw. They say they're on HDMI 1, but they're actually displaying HDMI 2. Send those back to the manufacturers. And as I remembered this, as the national anthem was going on, I said, it's not on 1, it's on 2. Boop. And they got the image, and those guys were able to go in there. And that was another last second fix. And that came from working at a store and remembering this TV had a severe flaw in it. And it just came to me in the last second. I was able to get it fixed, and the show went on.
That genuinely sounds like a movie. Like you know when it's like they're down to the clock and the building's gonna explode or something, and then they remember something that happened years before, and then they're like, right, last
this
minute
is it.
fix.
This is it. I got the answer.
Exactly.
This happens more times than you ever would know.
Oh,
so for those of you that think it's easy that we do what we do, please come. Just sit an hour. Come and see some of this panic-induced thing that we call fun. This is, everyone's like, oh, you went away for the weekend. It's like, I worked the entire time that I was gone. And you had to come up and engineer solutions. So superpower, figuring things out and getting a solution.
Definitely. Okay, this next question is very in depth. Wow. I still can't speak today. There's just like no language today, but okay. You're in a room with 3 light switches, each one of which controls one of 3 light bulbs in the next room. You need to determine which switch controls which bulb. All the lights are off to begin, and you can't see into the other room from the other room. You can inspect the other room only once. How can you find which switches are connected to which bulbs?
Okay, so I've read this and I tried to not think of this on the fly. The first way I dissect that problem is I only have one time of looking into that room.
Yes.
So, assuming that the 3 switches are lined up alongside and there are 3 light bulbs lined up, the best educated guess is that I can turn on 2 of those switches, probably the in ones, and then take my look into the room. With that, I have a better than 50% guessing of seeing which 2 light bulbs are illuminated. If it's the 1, 2 right here, then okay, I know I've got those. So I know that the middle switch operates the third. So I've taken that third light bulb out of the equation.
And that's 50-50.
Now I have 50-50 for the others, and that gives me the best chance. And that's just really literally off the top of my head. I try not to think about this whatsoever to try to come up with a solution.
I just think there's so many answers. Like, there's so many possibilities on how you could decipher this problem.
Mm-hmm. Right. There are a lot. It's funny because you'll see something like this in an escape room.
Yep.
Which I've been told is good to have me in an escape room. I'm like, I'm not that smart, but maybe we'll come up with an answer.
Now, what is the funniest thing that's happened to you recently?
Oh, I'll give you an example, and I've got video of this. So going back to dogs, Lulu is the middle dog. She is the athlete. She's the athlete. She can catch a ball. She is super fast. She will utilize the bed to kind of parkour and jump up higher. And I was playing around with her, and I was throwing the ball really, really close, maybe 2 feet away, and I'm boom, and she catches it. I say, "This is great. I want to get this in slow motion. Let's boom." And she was boom. And when she catches the ball, she comes back and she'll nudge you the ball so that you can throw it again. And the ball fell off the bed, and I was like, "Hey, you got to go get it." I didn't do that. So she goes and gets it. She nudges it to me, and I throw it to her, and she doesn't open up her mouth. She knows it. It hits me right in the eye, and it's right on camera. And I'm like, "You did that on purpose, didn't you?" All right, I get it.
The one time you filmed. Oh,
yep. I believe that you film things, you increase the odds that something like that is going to happen.
Yeah. I can't disagree, because all similar things happen to me when I'm tricking or something. Is I'll do a bunch of flips or whatever, and then my mom's like, "Okay, I'm gonna get one on camera." Face plants, and I'm like,
"Boom!" Like, why? Great. But save that. That's good, but not what I wanted.
Exactly. It's good for blooper reels or just like funny moments, but not for what we're going for.
Exactly.
All right. And now, what's your favorite quote and why?
I Can't Accept Not Trying by Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan meant by that quote that I can understand trying and failing, but not trying is something I can't accept. It was, you can find that book. It's a small little coffee table book. It's about that big. And he talks about fear, doubt, failure, and his drive to overall win. And his thing about people just not trying, just like, I'm not going to try. That's the one thing that he just can't accept. And that is the quote and actually the title of the book, I Can't Accept Not Trying.
I really do like that quote. I have to build a quote wall because I have so many that I'm just like, okay, remember this one. But no, it really is true. Like, it's just, you're gonna fail if you don't try because you've already failed. Because, well, you didn't try.
Right. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Exactly.
It's true. It's going to happen. But failure, as much as we don't like to think about it, is a good teacher. As long as it's not damaging or fatal, you learn a better way. I think it was Thomas Edison said, I didn't fail at inventing the light bulb, all the amount of times he tried to invent it. He says, I just found 700 something, whatever the number was, of ways that it didn't work.
Yep. Now, if in 150 years science fails to save us and all that is left is a book about your life, what would the title be and what would the blurb tell us about Mallory Woods?
The title will be Failing Up. The continuous reinvention of one person's life and trying to, even though you don't exceed, fail up and be better every time.
Yeah, like I like how you just come up with these answers and they're good answers too. You're just like, well, okay, here you go. Yeah, it's great. All right, and now it's time for our last question of the day, which is, what question would you like to have the opportunity to answer more often?
Ooh, answer more often. That's actually giving me pause. I'm trying to think about what is not asked enough. Probably, how can I help?
Yeah.
And this question can be answered not only if you're doing a sport, but around anything. Like if you're at work and you're waiting tables, and you're like, man, this stinks. Every single time we have to do this, blah blah blah. And well, how can I help? Maybe you could help institute something in the process that would help make the whole thing, the whole work environment, a whole lot better. One of the best things that I did was one time there was a lady who had to write a report every Wednesday, and it took her 2 hours to write this report. And I asked her, why does it take you 2 hours? Well, because I have to go get this, I have to get this, I have to get this. So I went back and I wrote something for her that would enable her to pull all those resources in one time, and she was able to do it in 10 minutes. And she was so thankful because she dreaded Wednesdays for having to do that report, and now the little script or whatever that I wrote for her enabled her to do that in 10 minutes, and it just made her it just made things better. So how can I help will probably be the most important question to ask.
Definitely. All right, that's all the time we have, but before we go, do you have any final words of wisdom you'd like to leave our audience with?
Always try to get better. No matter what we do, if you're the best programmer in the world, you're the best martial artist in the world, I don't think we ever obtain expert status. We can always be better, whether that's a better person, a better brother, sister, father, mother, a better instructor. And always take pity on someone that maybe they cut you off and while you're driving. Maybe they're having a bad day too. Give people the benefit of the doubt. Be better to one another.
Perfect. And once we're off air, where can our viewers find you?
I will be always hanging around at the SMA channel and sometimes on Black Belt Magazine with Robin Black and Richard Chow for podcasting. You can look and see pictures of my dogs at mwoods98 on Instagram, where I post pictures of my kid and my dog more than about me. And on Facebook, I'm around there. Never on TikTok. I don't think I'll ever get a TikTok. I'm saying that publicly.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being ready to spill it with us, Mallory. I really appreciate you taking the time to be here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
This week's episode has come to an end, but the fun doesn't have to end here. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, head on over to our Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Like, share, and get involved. Until next time, stay awesome, stay driven, and always be ready to spill it. Eccaia, out.